Listening to the people who tell us, to never stay out late and to always come home in a timely manner. Growing up where I grew up in Calskag and Chivak, people didn't say, "Oh, don't stay out late because you'll be tired," or "Oh, don't stay out late because, I'll punish you when you get back." No. What we were told is, don't stay out late or else that old grandma, she'll put you in her parka and you'll never be seen again. Or we were told, don't stay out late, or those little people, they'll find you and they'll play games with you and you'll never make it back home to the village again. So I feared stories like that, and it taught me a lot about listening to the stories that I was told, and respecting our elders and respecting our grandparents and our aunties and our uncles when they're telling us these stories of instruction. So one time a couple years ago, I was in Chivak and I was visiting my Anna, Cecilia Andrews, and the rest of my family when I decided to go and visit my auntie. So I was visiting my auntie and I looked out the window and it was so dark. I said, "Auntie, I gotta go home, my family's expecting me." So we said goodnight. And I stepped out of her porch and I was out in the cold Chivak air, and I was immediately struck with fear because right there to my left, was, well, let me go back. Before I go on to that story, I want to describe this one story that teaches us, never to stay out late. And it's about this being that stands in front of your doorway. If you stay out too late, and I've heard of this happening to some people in our community, that if they stay out late, there's going to be this being, this figure, this human-shaped figure that stands in front of your doorway. And what you've got to do is, you can't run away from that being. You can't run to your auntie's house or your uncle's house when you see this being in front of your doorway, because this being is going to follow you. And you'll find this being in front of that door. So what you've got to do is you have to follow, some instructions when you encounter this being in front of the doorway like that. You need to place one hand on this figure's chest. Even though this figure feels dark and it feels cold and you're scared, you got to put one hand on its chest and the other hand on its head. And you got to begin rubbing this being on the chest. And while you're rubbing, this being starts to sink into the ground slowly. And you just have to be brave and push this being into the ground. And it's then after this being, this cold, dark being is in the ground, that you're free to get up, open the door, and walk in. So growing up, I was always afraid, of this figure. I never wanted to encounter it standing in front of the doorway. So I always tried to listen and go home in a timely manner. But that one particular day, visiting with my auntie, and it got really late, I stepped outside, and I saw this figure standing right beside me. It had a head and shoulders, and it was a little taller than me. I got so scared. I thought, "Oh, please, please don't be that being. I'm so sorry I stayed out late." But I wanted to find out what this being was, so I stuck out my hand, and it was cold. And when I started feeling this human-shaped figure standing next to me, it started to crinkle. And I felt it some more. It was somebody's coat hanging on a nail. I was so relieved. I went home.